Welcome again to my series of talks on spiritual leadership. We've been considering the common shortcomings of leaders, those pitfalls that we can so easily fall into. And I'm going to discuss 7 of them, although there are probably many more. And we've already talked about 5. Today, we'd like to talk about number 6, which has to do with finances. Money matters. The misappropriation of funds. It's very easy when you're in a leadership position, a place of authority, to succumb to the temptation of greed and to misuse that role of authority, to mismanage finances and use finances for personal gain. Now, you've heard the cliche that power corrupts or authority corrupts, and absolute authority corrupts absolutely. Now, that should not be the case of servant leaders. There's another saying in terms of finances that is the golden rule. He that controls the gold rules. And again, as a spiritual leader, we are servant leaders and we're not in control of the finances. We are there to facilitate the use of the finances for the kingdom of God. Just a reminder from Romans 12 verse 8, where we've learned that he who leads should do so diligently. So we need to be diligent in the area of finances in our leadership. Paul writes to Timothy and he teaches Timothy the different qualities of those that are to be in spiritual leadership, those that are to be elders and deacons. And in 1 Timothy 3 verse 2 and 3, he talks about a spiritual leader or an elder needs to be above reproach, not a lover of money. Now it's important to note that money is not evil. It's the love of money that's the root of evil. Money is amoral. Money is something that we can use for the sake of the kingdom of God, the glory of God, the good of other people. But it's when we succumb to the love of money that we run into problems. 1 Timothy 6 verse 10 says, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. The misappropriation of finances, not walking in integrity in the area of finances, will bring all kinds of grief, not only to you, but to many others. Many ministries and churches have failed because of the misappropriation of money. We know that the first commandment is that we are to love God, and the second commandment equal to it, we are to love others as we love ourselves. In other words, we are to love God and love people. But then God gives us things, money, material things for us to use in order to serve God and serve people. When you become greedy and selfish and you misappropriate those principles, you turn them around and you start loving things, loving money, instead of loving God first and loving people, then you run into all kinds of difficulty. We start using people and even using the fact that we are in ministry, using church, using God because of our love for things. That's a dangerous way to live. Don't succumb to those temptations. The principles of good stewardship are very clear for us in Luke chapter 16 from verse 10 to 12. And I'll just summarize them for you. The principles of stewardship. First of all, we are to be faithful in little so that God can entrust to us much. God looks at the way you handle the little bit of money you have to see if He can trust you with more money. So be faithful with the little you have. Use it wisely. Don't use it greedily. Use the little that you have wisely so God can entrust to you much. Secondly, he that is faithful with material things will also be entrusted with true spiritual riches. God looks at the way we handle finances, the way we handle material things to see if He can entrust to us true spiritual authority. You need to be above reproach when it comes to handling finances. And the third principle of stewardship has to do with how you take care of another person's stuff. He that is faithful with another person's things will also be entrusted with his own. The way you handle things that don't belong to you, things that you've borrowed or things that belong to the ministry or the place that you're working, the way you handle those things, that equipment, the vehicles, whatever, the way you look after them will show to God whether He can entrust you with your own. All leaders need to be above reproach when it comes to finances, but especially spiritual leaders, because we are handling finances that belong to God, really, being given for the kingdom of God and being given for purposes for the kingdom of God. We also need to handle our personal finances, but also the funds corporately of the church or the ministry with absolute integrity. When it comes to generosity, for example, if you are raising funds or asking for donations for a specific cause, you need to be the first one to give towards that cause. There'd be a lack of integrity if you're challenging people to give, challenging people to do something that you are not willing to do. So with integrity, we need to be generous. We also need to be accountable with our personal finances, but especially we need to make sure that there's procedures in place when it comes to corporate finances to safeguard us from any question in terms of how the finances are being handled. Protect yourself, put procedures in place, have other people count the offering, bank the money, that kind of thing. Make sure you are protected. Let's be careful that we don't succumb to the temptation of misusing our leadership role and to misappropriate finances for personal reasons. Let's beware of those pitfalls and walk in integrity and the fear of God when it comes to dealing with finances. God bless you